listening to Mothers War and Violence, 89.9 FM, WCBU. And I'm Yolanda Wallace. I'm your host. And this is Mothers War and Violence podcast, which is also a 501c3 organization where we tear down strongholds to stop the violence in our families. And today we have a special guest in our studio, and her name is Christell Frausto. Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Yolanda. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, anyway, the reason why I'm bringing you on to our show today is want to talk about all the wonderful things that you're doing in our community, and I see you almost everywhere. I'm wondering, how do you do so much? We want to thank you openly for being one of our queens at our Tea with Queens event, our new mentoring program that we have. And we chose you because of all the extraordinary things that you do in our community, being a business owner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's wonderful working with you in the community. And the speech that you gave was very inspiring and hopeful about your life and sharing your challenges that you struggle with as a young girl coming to America.
Yes.
So do you want to share any of that?
Sure. Thank you so much. By the way, the Tea with Queens was incredible. We got so many perspectives, so many tidbits of advice, golden advice. And I just want to say that it was really fun and honor to be working with you. And we met in such a short time and we just hit it off. And everything you do is amazing, because violence prevention is at the root of, everything, all the strongholds that you said we're trying to break down, and they can clash together, and we can, combine violence prevention, business, social services, entertainment, culture all into one. And it's been a beautiful friendship that's come from that. So
Yes,
thank
it has.
you.
Yes, it has.
I did. I came to this country when I was 3 years old from Mexico. I was born in Mexico. And really my hardest challenge was the language, learning the language. I got bullied for saying 1, 2, 3. I will never forget that. But really it was classes that were bilingual in Chicago at the time were about 3 years behind on the academic level of what we should have been at. So in third grade, you're barely learning first grade. So that you fall behind, and the statistics quickly lead to dropping out, teen pregnancies, just different kinds of trouble for the teens. So my mom didn't want that to happen, seeing that she saw it all around us.
Right.
She went and advocated for me at the school, so much so that she almost got into a fight with my teacher. My teacher retaliated, and I ended up getting yanked out of bilingual class and thrown into a regular class, not knowing the language fully. So it forced me to study late at night. I would study till 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning, or wake up at 5 or 6. But my mom couldn't help me because she didn't comprehend the questions either. So it was a very big struggle.
Because of the language barriers.
Because of the language barriers. But really, really taking pride in school, and my parents encouraged me, even though they didn't know how to help me. They still encouraged me to keep going, and they would try to help me with my projects. And I remember specifically a science project I had. I didn't know we had to buy a cardboard, like a board that stands up. I submitted my schoolwork in a folder.
Wow.
So I was the only one with a folder, and I was very insecure about that. I was very embarrassed, like, oh no. But then I realized me and my dad spent hours making this amazing project. So I kind of, encouraged myself to just be proud of where I'm coming from and my struggles.
And just do the presentation. The best that you could.
Best that I could. And one gift that my parents gave me, we had an immigration situation, so my parents couldn't travel. And because my grandparents were in Mexico, my dad would send me, when they would save up some money every year, every 3 years, and on their behalf to visit my grandparents. And the gift of traveling really opened up my mind, really allowed me to see how my home country, the privilege of coming from, a place where poverty is, it's prevailing, but also I got to see all the small businesses on every corner, and that was very exciting.
Wow.
So coming back and, taking the opportunity to work at 14, my parents were strict. A lot of Spanish households are strict on the girls and not the boys. So they told me, you work or you go to school. So I got my first job at the mall at 14, and it changed my life. It changed my life completely.
What kind of job was that?
At the kiosks, we were selling incense, aromatherapy, but the woman that hired me turned out to be my mother-in-law.
Oh, wow.
She taught me sales. She was fabulous. Pakistani descent. My ex-husband, he also came to this country when he was 8, and it just became part of her family, and she allowed me to save all my commission and buy into the business.
Wow.
So by 17, I had my own partnership, my first business with her, and we had expanded. We had kiosks, we had double kiosks, we had kiosks in other malls.
Awesome.
But what we didn't have was education of how to really run a business. So we ended up going bankrupt, like by the time I was 19, going on 20, because we had expanded into an inline store. Now, knowing nothing about business, you have overhead payroll, Christmas rent, ordering inventory, too much inventory. So it traumatized me. I lost like $7,000. And to me, I'll never forget it. It was the most I've ever had at that age. And I remember looking through the windows.
That is a lot for a teenager.
It's a lot. And I wanted to help my parents. I wanted to help my grandparents. I also wanted to buy myself my clothes and be able to go out or, have fun with my brothers, go places. And after that failed, I swore it off. I swore I'm never going to go into business again. I'm just going to go grab my GED real quick because I dropped out of high school to keep this business going. And I went to go work at cell phones. Cell phones were the thing back then. I worked at Nextel, Sprint. Then Verizon recruited me from the same mall. And it shot my career for 15 years in the corporate world. Did an amazing job, trained me up. So I was grateful for that education because I never finished a degree. So I got my degree my experience hands-on. I did go back to school. Verizon did pay for a lot of my school, but I just took classes I would need to continue to get promoted. And it went very well for me. I'm very grateful for that career. And that's when my mother-in-law passed away. She was 2011. She left us a letter. She said, open your business again. Do it, please. It's my dying wish. I'm leaving you a little bit just to bury me, take care of my husband, and just a little seed money. Just, you have some money saved up. Go ahead and do it.
Wow.
So we started a restaurant in Chicago, and it wasn't it was more like buying an existing restaurant. And this is such a great advice tip for anyone wanting to start a business, maybe buying an existing business. A lot of folks are retiring. Boomers, that generation, have running businesses. Wow. Taking over something that's been around for 40 years and just making it better is better than risking failing. When the first 3 years, it's very
trial and error. Yeah, you make a lot of mistakes.
Make a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes cost a lot of money.
Yes, they do.
And if you don't have the cash flow, chances are a lot of businesses will suffer.
Yeah.
Small businesses or startups. So that was the one thing we did right, and we grew it. 5 years later. But we couldn't grow. We couldn't afford to buy in Chicago. We couldn't afford to expand or scale out. So we just looked at each other.
Because the cost of living is higher.
Yes. Buildings, hundreds of thousands of dollars, houses. There's no way you can grow. So we did the best we could. We got involved with our community, with our church, built the brand, all that good stuff. But really, we looked around. We looked at Michigan City. We looked at other states, Arkansas. I don't think we were very welcome in some places. So it was like, okay, what's a good fit? Peoria came out. In conversation, there was a gas station for sale on Prospect Road, and we made the move. It was a marathon on Prospect and Forest Hill, and that was in 2015, and we've been here since.
And how old were you then?
I'm turning 40 this year.
Wow.
So in my 30s.
That is a huge, extraordinary experience for a young lady.
It was a lot. I was a city girl. I left my friends. I left my parents. I left my brothers, and I knew no one here. And to start a business here, that's what got me more involved in networking for the first time. It's like, let me go meet people in the community. A few years later, I leave Verizon. I had surgeries on my feet. Health reasons pushed me out. Working in your feet in retail, it's very rough. So I had to have surgeries. I was bedridden a little bit, started insurance. But really, that just opened the door to do community stuff. And the Hispanic Chamber started at that time. Kind of took it over.
The Mexican Chamber?
Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Hispanic.
Yes.
Okay.
And from there, the Peoria Chamber that already is existing, the larger one, they took us under their wing. A few other people took us under their wing. Denise Moore took me under her wing. So many wonderful ladies.
At the Minority Business Development.
In the community.
That's where we got our first start at, is with the Minority Business Development with Mothers War on Violence.
That's amazing. And from there, it just took off. I became a student. I did some research. What does Peoria need? Where can I help? How can I use that also to, promote my business and try to meet people, get some sales. You're in sales. You gotta meet people and pitch, right?
Right.
It's a numbers game, but it gave me purpose. I could never have kids, so really finding this purpose was really special to me, and I take it as a privilege because the work that I've done since then till now, I get to see the impact in my lifetime while I'm here in Peoria.
You're living.
While I'm living, immediately impact, influence on high school students. Right now, what I'm actually involved in is a soccer group in the south side of Peoria. We meet on Sundays, 300-400 people there. Managing that has been a lot of work. I wasn't expecting.
I've been there. There's a lot of people.
So security is very important. Safety, security, insurance. Got to get some leadership going, some accountability, code of conduct, all that. It's been fabulous, though, to see the businesses grow. We have farmers bringing food. We've had healthcare fairs in Spanish.
Wow.
Partnerships with Peoria City Soccer for the international games that came to Peoria this year.
Awesome.
Bringing record-breaking numbers, giving them momentum with attendance. Just being a part of that. It's I couldn't even imagine it a year ago. But the chamber has also grown. Éxito Peoria is another nonprofit more for the social services. So that's how we met. I got a grant for 21 students got a scholarship and learned how to power wash and got their own machine. Partnership with Antoine Banks. Shout out to product of the project. And it's been beautiful. I've been able to, again, grow my businesses, open Tequileria liquor store, recently opened a restaurant, River City Grill.
Which has amazing good food.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a great place to live and to grow, and being able to merge everything under one umbrella, where it's my business, the nonprofits, the social services, and the culture of everything, because I've considered our culture to be our compass. It's what guides us.
I think so, too. I think sometimes in the African American community, we've lost our culture.
Okay.
I mean, we have part of it, but I listen to you and all the things you talk about, parents being strict, and how that was part of our culture.
Okay.
That's how we were raised. Now, research and studies say that, that causes problems later on in the future, but actually, in reality, being, living with having strict upbringing, kind of, sort of, and with my grandmother mostly, it really gave me the boundary, to set the boundaries for me. So without those boundaries being there, and there is no discipline and there's no structure, then it's trouble. It's big trouble, which I see that a lot of the youth are experiencing, because it's almost like they don't have any guidance.
Sure.
But when you say that your culture is your compass in the Hispanic, community, that speaks value, because that's how you guys stick together, I think,
And thank you for that. Absolutely. And I grew up in the 90s. I'm an 80s baby. I saw how music had a huge influence in the culture. I grew up listening to hip hop, and I see that also happening in the Spanish music. And all these little influences from outside that break the family nucleus take an effect, because it changes how men perceive women, how men treat women, the relationship, the length of relationships, the quality of relationships, and fatherhood, motherhood. I see that possibly impacting us, and that we have that challenge in the next decade or two.
Yes.
We have a rise in single mothers. We have an epidemic of crystal meth in Mexico, where women are doing that drug, and it's not something that was there years ago. So as strong as we have these ties, we have to fight for them to stay.
That is so absolutely powerful, a powerful statement that you said that, Christell, because when I look at the family today, and everybody seems to, I want to do it my way type thing, that thinking to me seems to tear down the structure of the family, because we already had a roadmap laid out for us that actually worked in our background cultures that we had, that some groups have lost.
Sure.
And like you said, the music is kind of turned, especially I know in the,
and it's catchy.
it
It's
is just this new
But
sexy
the
red, and
message.
it's all this other crazy stuff that's going on. I mean, we still have to go back to our roots, and part of our roots even went back to the Bible, because that was the culture. The Bible was its own culture, and in that culture was how to be a mother, how to be a father, how to work,
Principles.
all the principles that some of the kids seem to be struggling with today.
Sure.
So
I completely
I think
agree.
what you're doing in the community, when I see you out there working with Antoine Banks and working with Peoria Park District and in the Latin American community and things like that, it's just it's needed even more. We need to have more Christells.
Our goal, and I say our as in our organizations, is to create more leadership, to recruit more from different ages, and have more people feel empowered to not have to ask permission. Those are the barriers we should be breaking. Not have to ask permission. Create things. Be a thinker. Build wealth.
Be creative.
Have the audacity to want to own businesses and have loans and government contracts and really fight for things that will change the quality of our life financially, because it would bring us a freedom that we don't know.
That is so true. Now, how, Christell, I must ask you, with all the immigration and things that are happening and people coming new into the United States and coming into the state of Illinois,
Sure.
How is that affecting with that, and how are you guys dealing with that within the
Of course.
Latin American community?
That is a great question. It's a loaded question, and there's many angles to that. And the first thing I would say is a lot of things get used politically, and if we take that away and we just look at the actual narrative and we look at things from a humanist perspective, how do we move forward with what we have on our plate in our hands, knowing that a lot of folks are coming here from countries that have collapsed or are, and we can't say that the U.S. didn't have a part in the history. We can trace back, and I've talked about in interviews economic hitmen and how natural resources and where money has lost its value in different countries. Take Venezuela, for example.
Of course.
And the impact that has on today. We see an influx of folks coming here, but also the history of Peoria is built for the Hispanic community. If folks don't know, from migrant workers, farm workers.
Oh, yeah.
And our manufacturing plants. So Peoria's history our community has been built from the history
It's been rich. In
and
Peoria
seasonal
area.
workers that have looked at Peoria and said, I want to live here, I want to make this my home. And it's built equity. In the Ronald Reagan times, amnesty happened, and a lot of people got their citizenship, but they would also go to Mexico and farm, work here seasonally, and just go back and forth. That's why we have a lot of folks here from a state of Mexico that's very, a lot of people here know each other. Michoacan. In the last year or two, we've seen a lot of folks arriving from Central America. So we have a mix of cultures, Venezuela, Honduras, Guatemala, and it's a rich blend. And when I say we, I say that a lot. The organizations I work with, the city that I partner with, City of Peoria, we want to make sure we're welcoming and that we are, helping people become sustainable. When we talk about immigration reform, that's at federal level. The most important thing that I've seen being as a chamber president is that we advocate for small businesses, but we're not sitting at the table until we have an immigration reform solution on the plate for everyone from all countries, from all statuses, taking away crime, taking away criminals, giving the people that are paying taxes, working, an option, a pathway to citizenship, even starting with the essential workers of COVID. Those are the topics that really need to have a solution in place. But even without, we've still advocated, saying the Chamber of Commerce, for folks that have an ITIN. Now, an ITIN is similar to a social security number. But it's for someone that's a non-citizen, an undocumented person. But they can continue to pay taxes and not receive any benefits back. Open businesses, get loans. Recently with Busey Bank, get a mortgage. Chicago. I was just at a
Wow.
conference, get business loans. So there are opportunities we are advocating for,
They're starting to
some
open up.
that are opening up that were never available before. Why? Because we have such a large market of purchasing power. We have the largest amount of women opening businesses in the United States are Latino women. So it's very impressive, and also for education. Those
At
are
this
very
time.
impressive numbers that things are changing, ceilings are being broken. And again, with the family being important, the culture being important, and the values, it doesn't mean you can't, have these things, have
Right.
careers, have wealth,
Right,
break
right.
those barriers, and change the norm, so to say.
That is so, so true. And when you were talking about parents who farm here and go over to Mexico and then they come back at a season, at one point in time, I've worked with truancy, and I've
Okay.
noticed that was an issue. So you can't really say that they're not just going to school if their family does that. This is a custom. This is their part of their culture,
Yes.
which is seems to be evolving and changing what that culture is.
Right.
And so, in dealing with, the Hispanic or the Venezuela, because sometimes I wonder, how you see a black person and you say, okay, all black people are the same, but there's black people, there's, African Americans,
Sure.
there's Africans, and, and then there's, these Jamaicans. We're all the same, almost the same kind of color, but we're different kind of people. And how do you deal with the different cultures, with the
Education, communication is key. I'll give you an example. In our soccer field, there's a lot of words that mean different things, even in Spanish, to different countries.
Oh,
In one of our meetings, we had to have a linguistics class, so we
Okay.
would learn how to respect each other.
oh,
Because
wow.
calling things out was going to possibly cause fights. And if we cause fights, we're not doing this anymore. We're
Oh,
going to shut it
wow.
down. Safety first, right? So
That's awesome.
it's knowing what those differences are,
Mm-hmm.
and it can't be just language. It can be housing expectations,
Mm-hmm.
in some cases entitlement, like, what's your expectation, and is that reality? And then helping folks adjust, acclimate, having harsh talks, but knowing that some people were brought here, like human trafficking is a thing, and it's a real thing, and if we've encountered it with young girls, and those are difficult situations where
That from different countries.
different cultures, different countries,
Cultures,
different
right.
ages, and different
And they
perspectives.
got used to a lifestyle, and
Exactly.
it's really not that good, and so you're having to teach them.
How do you reach that person?
Yeah.
How do you help that person? How do you not judge, what people's attitudes are, and still find solutions for the community? Because these are problems that we're working on as a community. Our focus with the chamber and with Éxito is to have a home, to have some land. That's in the next year, hoping to have a cultural center where we can have more workshops. At the moment, we have amazing locations where we can go and
Right.
have the workshops, but ultimately I want to umbrella the soccer, the cultural center, the events, entertainment, and we need more of these locations, not just mine.
Right.
If the city has a few, because there's a lot of resources, but they're not available in Spanish. So
That's true.
it's
And
important
because of the language barrier thing, and yeah.
And there's a lot of jobs that I hope that as our generations grow up, that they look to fill, like jobs at the DMVs, jobs at the city, at the health department. It's amazing to have people that you can speak the language to and get help. So
And I'm glad that there is starting to be more advocacy for the Latino community, because the population is growing, and
Absolutely.
and everywhere I look, they're building houses, they're doing more things, they're opening businesses, and they're a part of the community. Well, they have been in Peoria for a very long time,
Yes.
but sometimes they're mostly on the north end of Peoria, and you don't see them very much. But now everybody's everywhere,
Right.
and
the silos, yeah. Yeah. And what comes with a growing city is also crime will come. And
yeah.
what can we do to stay ahead of what problems are coming. Let's be, realistic about those type of conversations when it comes to crime and what it'll affect the dropout rates of high school students. Like you said, the truancy, it has an effect that's long term.
It does. It
really
does. And if you could say something now in your own language to the Latino community, what would you say?
I'll say it in English and then I'll say it in Spanish.
Great.
I would say that we have immense pride. We have immense pride, and we celebrate a lot, and we love to have fun. That's just part of how we are. But at the end of the day, when the celebration ends, we just had Fiesta en Rio. It was fabulous, 3,000 people. The work continues the next day. Let's take our pride and apply it to how we can help in our community. Choosing something that's likable to you, and whether it's sports, whether it's education. Whether it's business topics, immigration, advocacy. But I implore people to really give back and get involved. When we talk diversity and inclusion, participation rate is low. And I understand the barriers. If you're operating out of fear, you're not going to step out of your comfort zone to participate. But I believe that we're in an amazing city with amazing leadership that welcomes us, protects us, and it's time to get moving on more projects, and let's dream big.
Awesome. Do you want to say that? Interpret?
Mi gente de Peoria, les quiero decir que estoy muy agradecida por las oportunidades que he tenido para trabajar con ustedes, las celebraciones que hemos tenido, pero les quiero dar el consejo que hay que unirnos y ser más organizados para proyectos, para ayudarnos en nuestra posición de diferentes maneras, con inmigración, con educación, con salud, con negocios, y seguir creciendo esta ciudad, pero estar activos y estar dando nuestra voz para que cambios mejores vengan para todos.
Awesome. See, I believe that no matter who you are, you ought to be able to express yourself in your own language, in your own comfort being. I don't believe that just because we're, coming a different race of people that we all need to change or that we all need to be the same. It's okay being you. It's okay being me. Yes. It's okay with our producer being him. and that should be fine everywhere we go. Thank you again, Christell, for joining our podcast. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
One more thing. I have to give the flowers to the beautiful women, African-American women that mentored me when I got here, when I was the only one in rooms that looked like me, trying to research and figure my way around Peoria, that took me under their wing. So many of them, over 10. And I love them and cherish them. And I'm grateful that our city doesn't have that divide that other cities have. They turn into a race thing, a political thing. We control the narrative here because we have that strength and leadership and that privilege in Peoria, and we're united. And I just want to thank them and give them their flowers because I was lost.
That is awesome to even hear. I know our mayor, Rita Ali, tries to reach all different types of stuff. She's dealing with a lot of different things. And just as we go through this transition of being a state where we accept these immigrants, it is a challenge, I know, for each city. And as I see things changing, I mean, and our chief of police, he seems to be doing pretty good with everything, too. So, that's a good thing.
Very good.
So, but thank you very much for joining our show and accepting our invitation to Mother's War on Violence. And listening audience, I'm glad that you're listening to another podcast here at WCBU. And I'm wondering if you have any other topics that you'd like to hear about that maybe you would drop us an email here at WCBU.org, or you can send us an email at Mother's War on Violence, which is MWAVMM@yahoo.com. Thank you for listening.